everyone. It's good to see your faces. And let's open up with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America,
to the republic
which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I didn't see any guests as I previewed our Zoom screen, but did I miss someone? Okay, great. Well, I want to remind everyone that our cup money for the month of June is sheltered living. You can go to our website to make an electronic donation. And this coming year, we don't quite know how the cup money will look and how we'll be using it. So take advantage of your one lifetime to make a contribution. One of the things I'm very, very sad to share with you today is that yesterday, our dear friend, James Blackie, passed away. Jim was one of those people that I met as a result of Rotary. And whenever I come into the meeting, he'd always greet me with a big grin and say, "Where is my hug?" So I've missed him at the meetings for a long time and know that he was declining, but he passed away yesterday. His services will be on July 3rd, a week from tomorrow, at the Dove Funeral Chapel at 37th and Wanamaker. And our Lee Morris will be doing the service for him then. We've lost quite a few these last few months, and this one was a particular topic for me. I wanted to share with you that we will not have a meeting on July 2nd. Our next joint meeting with the Rotary Club of Harlem, and we're adding the Rotary Club of Minneapolis, will be July 9th. I'm sorry, July 7th at 6 p.m. The topic will be unconscious bias and accountability. And as we're meeting via Zoom this evening, so as we get more details, I'll be sharing that with you. Then we had our first meeting for Stan and at our permanent site scheduled for July 9th at the event center at K. McFarland Japanese Center. As a result of the survey responses that we got and a suggestion from one of our members, it was decided that for our first meeting at the site, it would be better, and with all of the things going on with COVID, it would be better for us to have small groups to just tour the event center and get a sense of what it's like and feels like. So perhaps then as we do move to more face-to-face meetings, you can feel comfortable and safe with them. So we will be getting out a sign-up sheet electronically for that meeting in the next week or so, because the groups will be, 8 to 12 people about to tour it, and the tours will be about 20 minutes. So this should give you an opportunity to see where our new home is and also feel safe. Okay, with that, I'm really excited for us to hear from Larry. You know, he's a bigwig in the Rotary International world, and he's very modest and humble about it. But he grew up at the Rotary Club of Topeka, served as president and district governor, and did a lot of work with the Rotary International Foundation. And and then eventually became a board member of Rotary International. And I think you're just wrapping up your term, Larry?
Yes, I've got about 3 more days, but who's counting? So.
Doris. So he's going to share with us what's happening with Rotary International and how we as an organization are trying to adapt to the 21st century and all the changes in the world. So, Larry?
Thank you very much, Joni. Excuse me. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with all of you, and especially I was asked to discuss an innovation in Rotary having to do with growing Rotary, and that is ways that we are establishing new kinds of clubs to help broaden the scope of Rotary in our country and around the world. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you about this for a few minutes, and if there are questions at the end, I'll be glad to see if I can answer those. But one of the main themes of Rotary this year has been, other than Rotary Connects the World, is that we need to grow Rotary, and grow Rotary in so many different ways, but to spread the scope of our activities, to further engage more people in Rotary, and of course to retain the folks that are currently members of our clubs. So one of the things that we've done in the last several years, and our club is very aware of this, is we've back in 2016, the Council on Legislation approved the fact that Rotary clubs could be more flexible in the way that they conducted themselves and their activities. So our club has jumped into that. We've got several new kinds of membership, namely the two that come to mind are our family membership and also the service membership. So one of the ways that clubs can grow is to make themselves more flexible, so that especially younger people may want to join where the activities are not so structured and regimented. And also, we need to not only be flexible in our existing clubs, but we need to make sure that we keep our members engaged, because it's not enough to attract new members in our clubs, but if they come in the front door and 2 or 3 years later they go out the back door, then we really haven't gained much. So we need to make sure that our clubs and our members are engaged. But in addition to that, in addition to looking at the existing kinds of clubs, a new innovation that is being talked about around the Rotary world is starting new clubs. And again, when you talk about membership, you can try to increase the number of members in your club, or you can reach out into the community and find areas where there are no clubs and establish a new club. And I'm reminded, and I see that Stan Teeter is on the call, the last time that we started a new club in the Topeka area, I think, Stan, was 2003 or maybe 2004, and that was starting the Topeka North Club. And Stan was very instrumental in doing that, and I worked with him on that. So we haven't had a new club in Topeka for that length of time. So maybe it's time to think about establishing a new club in our city. And the other thing that I'll mention, and it's kind of sad, is that one of the clubs that we did have was the Topeka West Club. And I understand that the Topeka West Club, which was over 60 years old, either is in the process or has in fact disbanded. So we've actually lost one of our clubs in Topeka, and so maybe we need to explore some options for maybe replacing that club. Maybe some of them can join our club, but perhaps a new club would be something to consider. So when we talk about trying to create new clubs, I guess the first question is, are there parts of your community that would like to meet at a different time of day, say perhaps in the evening rather than in the morning or at noon, as our club does? Or are there other things that we can do to make our clubs more flexible to our community? But having said all of that, there is also a new movement, and that is to start completely different kinds of clubs. For example, there's something called a satellite club, and our club had a little bit of experience with that over the last several years, where a club within the club is started, consisting perhaps of young people or others that maybe aren't ready to join the main club. They can be members of a club that is satellite to the main club. Another option that is very prevalent throughout the world, especially with expanding technology, are e-clubs, which are, as the name would suggest, they're clubs that actually do not meet in person, except maybe several times a year. And for the most part, they meet electronically by email or other social media platforms. So again, e-clubs are another option for growing Rotary. Another option that is becoming more and more popular, are something called passport clubs. And you say, well, what's a passport club? Well, what they are clubs who essentially they don't meet in their own club location, but maybe once every month or so, and the rest of the time they visit other clubs. That's what they do, as a part of their format. So they're called passport clubs, and they move around and physically visit other clubs. And I know in Texas, for example, in Waco, Texas, they're considering starting a new passport club down there. And then another one that we used to have in Topeka, we don't have anymore, are Rotary clubs. And we had a Rotary club connected with Washburn. Roger, if you remember, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, we had a Rotary club at Washburn. We also have one at Manhattan, which has been there for many years. And then there's one at KU also now. So this is another option. Rotary is not a Rotary club, but Rotary is a way to get younger people involved in Rotary. And Rotary clubs, by general definition, are clubs whose members are between the ages of 18 and 30, although it can be even beyond that in some cases. And so those folks, Topeka has had one, but unless there's something going on that I'm not aware of, we don't have one right now. And I think that our club or the South Club or perhaps even the Topeka North Club might consider sponsoring a Rotary club. And a Rotary club can be connected to a university, or it can just be in the community. It can be a club of people from the ages of 18 to 30 who are not ready to join Rotary just yet, but they'd like to be involved in the Rotary family, and they can become a member of a Rotary club. And as of the Council on Legislation last year, Rotary clubs have now been elevated to the same level, basically, as Rotary clubs. In other words, a Rotary club is a member of Rotary, just like our Rotary club. Our Rotary club is a member of Rotary. So this is another way to attract folks into Rotary, and for some folks, the Rotary route may be the way to go. So, but the other thing that I wanted to focus on, and I wanted to especially emphasize that in this discussion, is to charter a new kind of club, and it's called a cause-based club. A cause-based club, and I don't have a PowerPoint right now, so I'm saying CAUSE, cause-based club. And you might say, okay, what is a cause-based club? Well, basically, and I'll cite some examples here in a little bit, but basically these are clubs whose members share a common interest. And then the makeup of the club primarily consists of those people who have that interest. And let me give you some examples that have been recently chartered in our part of North America. In this case, I'm talking about the Upper Great Lakes. This has been going on so far. And that is in Minnesota in early 2020, in Minneapolis, they started what's called the Veterans Rotary many of the veterans Rotary Club. And so identity has to do with folks who are veterans of the armed forces, folks who are either currently in the armed forces or have been in the armed forces. And their mission is serving past and present members of the armed forces and their families and solving unmet needs. So the first one of these that was established anywhere in the world was in Minneapolis, and a good friend of mine who's been very active up there started this club, and they don't even have a military facility in that particular area, but it turned out there are many veterans who had an interest in getting together and helping out fellow veterans and their families. They chartered a club, as I say, early this year. And we also see one of those being looked at in South Dakota and Houston and up in Chicago. So the idea of establishing a veterans club is catching on, and they're being formed around the country. So that's one example of a cause-based Rotary Club. Now, I don't think you have to be a member, have to be a veteran, but for the most part, the members of that club, of those clubs, are veterans. And one of the things, for example, that they've worked on is meeting the challenge of housing for veterans. A lot of times there are issues that veterans have, especially when they first come back from their military service and obtaining housing and other benefits. So that's one example of a cause-based club. Another example is one. It's called an Eco Club, and they're up in Minnesota and Iowa, and they're focused on, as you might expect, environmental issues. And I have a video that Maria, can we see if we can show the video? So it's about 3 minutes to show you what this club has been doing.
Okay, so Larry, I'm going to start it, and then you let me know if you can't see it.
Okay.
And this is how we playing trees too. Let's do it. Whoa!
We're planting 28,000 trees, over 10 trees per Rotarian in our district.
Ready to plant some trees today?
Tree planting is my thing. You can look up and smile real quick. Who are we? Rotary. Rotary. And what else are we?
Planting trees.
Planting trees? Why are we planting trees?
Rotary.
That's right. How many trees are we planting today?
A lot.
A lot. That's all you need to know. you so much for coming out today.
Okay, thank you, Marie. So you see the enthusiasm and excitement, and there are a number of eco clubs being formed around the country. One is being looked at in South Dakota. So again, their focus is on the environment, which is obviously an important issue to many of us, especially young people, but old people like myself. We're very concerned about the environment, and that's an area that obviously was the basis of a cause-based club in some cities around the country. Another example is one that was recently chartered, again up in the northern part in Minneapolis, as a matter of fact, and that is an e-club, and the focus of that club is to end human trafficking. And that is something that we certainly can relate to here, because we're one of the few districts that I'm aware of that has a global grant that actually is being implemented to address that very issue. The drop-in center that we have in the YWCA, not there, but being coordinated through the YWCA for the victims of human trafficking and domestic abuse, at a drop-in center that is being provided and funded by Rotary. That is a response that our community has to that issue. But this has been a cause that has been selected and adopted by several communities. One in St. Paul and one in Minneapolis are the two that examples have come to mind. So again, their focus is how to reach out and help victims of this problem that exists in their community. So again, these are Rotary clubs that are chartered just like any other club. Now, they may meet personally, they may meet they may be an e-club meeting electronically, but the reason why they are distinct from other clubs is they have a certain cause that unites them and is their common interest that they as a club have. So there are other examples I could cite to you, but I guess the question I would raise a couple of things. Right now, since we have lost, apparently in the near term, a club being the Topeka West Club, is Topeka a spot where we might have a new club or two in the near future, and we might explore ideas for new clubs in this area. And the fact that the club didn't make it in Topeka West doesn't tell me that if you have a club out in the southwest part of the city, that wouldn't support a Rotary club of some kind. And the kind of club that might fly in Topeka might well be a cause-based club. In addition, I'd like to also leave with you the idea of starting a Rotaract club, because a Rotaract club is a way to reach out to youth who are not quite ready for Rotary, but if they join a Rotaract club, hopefully by the time they become 30 or even before that, they'll decide they want to join Rotary and become a part of the Rotary family. One thing I would like to mention, and I say this because it anticipates a question that sometimes people have, and that is, if you start a new club, aren't you taking away members of your own club? And I know Stan, if he would remember back in the day when we basically he started the Topeka North Club, that was an issue that was raised. But Stan, do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, I don't think. Well, the North Club is very small.
Yes.
I attend their meetings on Wednesday. I missed the Zoom meeting yesterday because I didn't get the right thing to click on. But we have the North Topeka Club has about 8 or 10 members. We have 3 to 6 at our meetings, but they're kind of mighty and powerful. The one thing you didn't mention, and I don't think any of the members are potential members for downtown. They're mostly folks that are up here north and in business and so forth. Dale Anderson, who's a member of our club, his daughter is a member of the North Club. But they are mighty. They do a lot for education. And one type of club you didn't mention was the Interact Club. The North Club has an Interact Club at Seaman, and it's very strong. I think there's 40 to 80 members of the Interact Club. They have a big car show in the fall and have done a lot. And I know we have I think the club has one at Highland Park. So Interact is another club type.
Yeah. Thank you, Stan, for mentioning that. Absolutely, Interact is very important. And I will underscore what Stan said. The facts are that as they look around the world, the new clubs that are formed, only about 8% typically of those new clubs are from existing clubs. So in other words, 88% of new club members are people who are not currently in a Rotary club. So in any event, I hope this is of interest to you to learn about cause-based clubs. It's a new thing, quite frankly. One of the areas, one of the clubs that's being formed in Minnesota is called the Human Rights Club, and that club is in the process of formation. So that's another aspect maybe to think about a little bit in the current situation that we're in. And these are all ideas of how people can join together to try to make things better in their communities and who have a common commitment to a particular cause. So with that, I'm going to stop and see if there are any questions anybody has, and if I can't answer them, I'll sure run down the answers for you. Thank you, Joni.
This is a quiet group today. We didn't even have to tell you to put your mutes on.
I think everybody's tired of Zooming.
Very well. Could very well be.
But
Well,
also because it's a sad day.
Yes.
So that was Dean Williams, who just spoke up, and he is my contact with the Rotary Club of Harlem. And did you want to add a couple words, Dean?
Put me on the spot.
I know.
No, I wanted to make sure I made it to this meeting to, I think Marv is on the call as well.
Yes.
Just wanted to make sure we showed our support with you and everything that you've done so far, and our continued relationship with the next step, which is our meeting with the Rotary Club of Minnesota, which I was found interesting that we were just talking about them in this conversation. So we have a lot more to accomplish, and I look forward to working with you.
And you. One of the things, as our club has been reflecting back on this past year, one of the highlights is our connection with the Rotary Club of Harlem. So we thank both Dean and Marva for joining us today, and we look forward to meeting with you on July 7th.
Joni, can I put a plug in on the collaboration? I sat in on the it was kind of a panel discussion that the Harlem Club did on intimate partner violence, and it was outstanding. And it had some great panelists. I learned a lot on a subject I didn't know a lot about, but it was a great collaborative effort. And I appreciate that.
Good.
So Larry or someone, could somebody discuss or come up with some ideas about what it would take, what the mechanics of starting a new club, like a cause-based club, would be? I mean, how do you go about that? It can't just appear out of nowhere. It sounds like maybe one of our members would have to start the ball rolling on that. Any thoughts?
Well, this is Larry. I'll just give you my thoughts. But I know in the Veterans Club, they and again, the guy who is the expert on this is a guy by the name of Tom Gum, who is from Minneapolis. And but they just started talking to veterans organizations and asking them if they would be interested in the idea of forming a Rotary Club. And as they began to talk to those groups, the idea took on traction and became popular. And of course, then what you do is you reach out to all the folks that are in that type of community, and they're in that category, and you need to reach at least a minimum of 20 members so that you can start a new club. You begin to have preliminary meetings and formulate, identify a champion who can help kind of pull all of the people together, and then you start having preliminary meetings and begin preparing your charter and your bylaws, and you get a lot of help from RI, and in this case, Tom Gump, and I want to emphasize his name. He is the expert in North America on how to start any kind of club, but certainly including cause-based clubs. So I'd be glad to share his name with Joni, and she can get that to everybody if you'd like to contact Tom. And he can give you, he has actually done a 50-slide PowerPoint on how to start any kind of club. And he can take you through every step and help you get through it, but including how you would put together a cause-based club. So thanks for the question. And like one idea that was shared in a meeting I was at a couple of months ago is maybe starting a club of Washburn alums, for example, Washburn University alums. It's an idea that hasn't been pursued by anybody that I know of, but that's just one idea that came up in one of the meetings we had.
I think with all the interests that there are out there, there's kind of an infinite number of possibilities, and we just have to latch on to one that somebody in the club has an interest in, and then move it forward from there. But you have to have passion for it before it would fly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hi, this is Dean. Oh, all right, go ahead.
Hello. This is Blanche. I have a quick question, Larry. What would be a minimum number of members you would need in order to form a new club?
I think that the minimum number is 20. 20.
Okay.
But a lot of times, like in the Veterans Club, I think they had more like 50 when they started. So because it really caught on in the Minneapolis, St. Paul area. But yeah, 20 is the minimum. But usually it's not too hard to find 20, especially if you find a common area of interest.
Yes.
You can get to that. But you got to have 20 started. Yeah, thanks, Blanche.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, quick question. This is Dean. Is there a listing of existing clubs so that to make sure that there's no redundancy?
I'm sorry, existing clubs in what? Category?
I think what he's asking, Larry, is on cause clubs, so that you don't create 4 or 5 of them or 20 of them. Is there a list that Rotary International maintains to see what is already out there?
I don't know of a list, but I can find out from for you, and I have a list, but it's a combination of all kinds of clubs, not just cause-based clubs. But let me see if I can find a list that has been put together, and I can send it to Joni to circulate to everybody if you'd like.
Does that answer your question, Dean?
Yes, it does, and I think that's a great ad. That like when we're talking to people about membership, we can say, well, you can also be part of this team, and you also can, if there's a certain interest that you have, be part of that global or national team as well.
Yeah, Dean, have you met Tom Gump by any chance? Because he's from Minneapolis, and I understand that Minneapolis is maybe joining with your club with some activities.
I will bring his name up. Speaking with, I think gentleman's name is Joe, a little bit later today at 4:30 about the unconscious bias event that we're all co-hosting.
Yeah.
You said Tom Gunn?
G-U-M-P, like in Forrest Gump.
Oh, Gump. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and he's district governor elect. He'll be district governor in District 5950 in Minneapolis in about 3 days, and he is the person in North America that is the most knowledgeable about starting clubs, including cause-based clubs. So I encourage you to reach out to Tom, and I'll get his name to Joni for everybody else.
Thank you.
Great. Well, if there aren't any other questions, I first want to introduce you to the executive committee for this incoming year, 2020-21. And I think if you just cough, make a noise, grunt, you'll light up the screen and they'll be able to see who you are. Russ Cobb is our Sergeant of Arms, and I don't believe that Russ is with us today, nor Carol Jordan. I haven't seen her, and she's our incoming secretary. Deborah Bricks is treasurer. This will be her second year. And then Steve Knoll is our program chair. You have to make a noise, Steve.
Here's my noise.
Program chair and vice president. And in 2 years, you will be president. And he's already done quite a bit of help with us this year. Marie Peichel is president-elect, and she is our Zoom expert and arranges all these things, and has been a great help to us this year. And rolling the drums is Stan Martindale, who you're still president-elect. I have 5 days. But I'm not counting. So, with that, this is kind of a mixed emotion time for me. I was sharing before the meeting started with some of you that joined early, that this definitely, being your president of the Rotary Club of Topeka this year, has been one of the highlights of my life. It has just been a phenomenal experience. And the friendships that have been developed, learning the talents of so many of you and asking you to do something and getting a yes and making a difference. All of you have made a huge difference in our club and in our community. And there's too much to rattle on all that has been accomplished. Certainly, Larry, you commented on the membership categories. We have even streamlined it more to make it easier. You can just be a member. And you can choose how you're going to pay your dues or pay your bills. And we're hoping that this will be a way that we can encourage younger people to participate. We have created a way to meet through Zoom. And as we did the survey for how people want to adapt to COVID-19, several people made some suggestions. They want to make sure that we keep connections. When we do have face-to-face meetings, we will stream it. We're trying to figure out all the technological parts of it regarding having interaction with that. But we're also taking a look at, is it necessary to have a face-to-face meeting every week? Maybe we can have a combination of Zoom meetings and face-to-face meetings and socials, plus in with our fellow Rotarians in New York and Minnesota. So there are lots of options, and what I'm thrilled to see is that Rotary International is recognizing we cannot continue the way we have always been if we want to continue to make a difference in the world. And the world needs us and needs Rotarians. So I thank you all very, very much for the privilege of serving you. It's been very humbling, and I wish Stan and his team the best, and I'm there for you. As I started the year last year, Marie said, "We've got your back, Joni." And so I say to you, I've got your back. Thank you all very, very much. Have a wonderful week. There is no meeting next July 2nd, but we will meet again on July 7th with the Rotary Club of Harlem and Minneapolis. And with that, we will end with the four-way test. Of the things we say, is it the truth? Is it very true? Will it build goodwill? Will it be beneficial to all? Will it be fun?
Is it?
And is it
kind?
Have a good week.
Thanks, Joni.
Thank you, Joni.
Thank you, Joni.
Thank you, Joni.
Thank you. Thank you for your leadership, Joni.
Thank you, Joni.
Good luck, Joni. Talk to you later.
Okay, Marva.